again? I am VSO and the Mimi of the school.
All right.
Isn't that cool? That is the best job I've ever had in my life, and I love it. And I am so excited to introduce our guest today. We have the Vermont Symphony Orchestra's a cappella vocal quartet. And this performance today was made possible by the Upper Valley Friends of the VSO. And I'm so delighted that some of our parents have joined us and some future Weathersfield students and friends. Thank you for coming today. And without further ado, and you don't even need a microphone, right? You guys, welcome. Thank you. Let's give them a hand.
The snow clouds white from the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like the swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know.
Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. To the prince and the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. To the prince and the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway.
Thank you very much. We are a cappella. I wonder if anyone in our audience today actually knows the definition of the musical term a cappella. Anyone? Yes. Yeah. Sorry? That song we sang was from Frozen. Yes. I'm looking for a definition for the musical term a cappella. Yes? Perfect. We make sounds with our voices instead of having drums or something like that. There's no band behind us. We don't have a piano. All we have today are the instruments that we were born with, our voices. And everybody's got an instrument, right? Everybody's got a voice. So, to describe to you a little bit about how each of our different instruments or voices work, we're going to start with my friend Claire, who is the soprano in our group. And the soprano voice is the highest of all the four voices, and it's the higher of the two women's voices. And to kind of demonstrate what we think our voices sound like in the terms of the Vermont Symphony, let's say, we're going to say that Claire sounds like a violin.
The violin's ringing like lovely singing. The violin's ringing like lovely song. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to introduce you to my friend Melissa. Melissa is the alto of the group. Her voice is a bit lower than mine, and you'll be able to tell by the way she sings speaks and by the way she sings, just the quality of her voice is lower than mine is. And we liken her voice to the clarinet in the orchestra.
The clarinet goes do-a-do-a-do-a-do-a. The clarinet goes do-a-do-a-do-a-do. Next up we have the tenor in the group. This is my friend Cameron Steinmetz. And the tenor voice in a cappella is likened to a high brassy instrument, which might be what? What? I hear it. What is it? Oh, higher.
Another one?
Higher.
Trumpet.
The trumpet goes trump-a-da-da-ta-ta-ta, trump-a-da-da-ta-ta-ta, trump-a-da-da-ta-ta. The trumpet goes trump-a-da-da-ta-ta-ta, trump-a-da-da-ta-ta-ta.
Thank you. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. The bass of our quartet, Kevin. He had the shortest draft today. Which is not always the case because we come from all different sides of the state. But Kevin lives
I'm in Norwich.
Norwich.
Yeah.
That's the name of the town. And his bass voice is the lowest of all four of our voices. And it's the bass is the lower of the two men's voices. And we think that specifically, Kevin's bass voice sounds a lot like a bassoon.
Now, a bassoon, if you're not familiar with it, because it's kind of an unusual instrument, is a long tube that if you unfolded it, goes way higher than I can reach, but it actually has a bend in it, so it's played seated, and the top of it is about here, and there's a reed that goes through a pipe into the actual instrument. The bassoon, it makes a point of counterpoint. Da 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 da. The bassoon, it makes a point of counterpoint. Da 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 da.
Now, just like the symphony orchestra, we'll put our four instruments together.
The bassoon makes a point of counterpoint. Da 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 da. The bassoon makes a point of counterpoint. Da 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 da. The bassoon makes a point of counterpoint. Da 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 da. The bassoon makes a point of counterpoint. Da 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 da.
Very much. So I know someone mentioned the first song we sang is recognizable to you. You knew what that was, right? From the movie Frozen. So Frozen and the music that comes from that movie is called popular music now because it's popular nowadays. So for our next song, we're going to stay in the theme of popular music, but we're actually going to go back in time. We're going to go back in time about 100 years. And the popular music 100 years ago was called jazz. Anybody heard of jazz music? Great. So there's a style of singing in jazz music where, kind of like what we just did, pretending to sound like instruments, jazz singers will do the same kind of thing, and they'll pretend that they sound like a clarinet, or they'll pretend that they sound like a trumpet. And in jazz singing, that style is called scat. You see the player do a lot of that scat singing. The song is called Jada Jada Jing Jing Jing. Anyone know what that is? No? It's a trick question. It doesn't mean anything. It's just fun to sing.
Ba-do ba-do do do do. Jada
Jada, jada, jing, 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 ba-doo-wop. You've heard all about your raggy melody, everything from opera to harmony. But I've a little song that I'll sing to. It's gonna win you through and through. There ain't much to the words, but the music is grand. And you'll be singing it to beat the band. You've heard of the tisket, a tasket is due. But give a little listen to this, will you? Jada, 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 jing, jing, jing. Oh, a funny little bit of melody. It's so soothing. It goes ja-da, 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 jing, 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 ba-doo-ba. Ja-da, ja-da, jing, 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 ba-doo-ba-da-da-da. Ja-da, jing, believe me, that's a funny little bit of melody. It's so soothing. It goes jada, jada, jing, jing, doo, doo, jada, 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 jing, 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 ba-doo-ba.
So now we're going to go even further back in time to some time, maybe about 450 years ago, to the time of Shakespeare, the time of Queen Elizabeth, those men wearing the pantaloons and the tights, and the women wearing the ruffs and the long fancy dresses. We're going to go to a place where a lot of music was sung, which is in a big, high stone cathedral. Picture huge, tall windows with stained glass. Picture a ceiling so high you can't even see up to the top of it. And we're going to invite you, because this piece is not written in English, we're going to invite you to close your eyes and see what feelings come when you listen to this music.
written for the church, and that's the kind of thing that they did then. But they also did other different songs back 450 years ago. And sometimes they would just make up songs for fun. And they would sing songs about the trees, or the birds, or love, or a chicken. And what they would do is that they would take words out, like real words out, and they would put in funny syllables. Now if you think about around holiday time when you sing Deck the Hall, if you folks know Deck the Halls, and you sing la 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 la, what does that even mean? Nothing. It's just silly syllables. And that kind of song is called a madrigal. So, as I said, sometimes they make songs about a chicken. And this song is about a chicken. The hen goes to, lays an egg. They take the egg to the baker. And the baker makes pies and cakes. And everyone's happy. Because who doesn't like pies and cakes? It's a really serious piece.
A little white hen with fluffy feathers looks for food for golden grain. A little white hen with fluffy feathers looks for food for golden grain.
Oh, hear her cackle.
The hen lays a standing. The hen lays a standing. Baker make us little pies and little cakes, spicy cakes with frosting sweet. We'll eat the cakes and drink the wine. We'll eat the cakes and drink the wine. And drink the wine. The hen lays a standing. The hen lays a standing. The hen lays us an egg.
So by a quick show of hands, how many people in the room are fans of hip-hop? So quite a few of us. Back about the time that I was your age, hip-hop was relatively new. And there was a part of hip-hop that's still active today where instead of singing, the vocalist would talk. Can you shout out what that's called? Yeah. So, we've been all over the world. We've looked at all different kinds of music, and we have found what we think may be the oldest piece of rap music, the oldest piece of spoken music ever written. It's almost 100 years old. It comes from an Austrian composer who also traveled all over the world. He was born in Austria, and he lived there until he was about 35 and was a famous composer at that time. And then he moved to Berlin in Germany. Just before World War II started, he moved from Germany to London. He lived in London for about 10 years, and then he moved to New York. And after living and writing music in New York for a while, he moved to Los Angeles, and he spent the last 20 or 30 years of his life writing music for movies. But this is a piece that he wrote as a young man, and he was doing something kind of funny, similar to the fa-la-la-la-las and the ka-ka-ka-ka-kas and the chicken song. He noticed that all these places he lived, they had different names from different languages, and I think many of them sounded kind of funny to him. So he put these place names together into a piece, but instead of singing it for you, we're going to speak it.
We have to get some attitude.
and the Lake Titicaca. The Popocatépetl is not in Canada, rather in Mexico, 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 Canada,
Trinidad, and the big Mississippi, and the town Honolulu, and the Lake Titicaca. The Popocatépetl is not in Canada, rather in Mexico, Mexico, Mexico.
Trinidad, and the big Mississippi, and the town Honolulu, and the lake Titicaca.
See, yes, Tibet,
Trinidad, and the big Mississippi, and the town Honolulu, and the Lake Titicaca. The Popocatépetl is not in Canada, rather in Mexico, 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 Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi, Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi, Canada, Tibet, 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 Nagasaki, Naga,
Canada, 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 Canada.
Trinidad, and the big Mississippi,
and the town
Trinidad,
and the Lake Titicaca.
and the lake Titicaca.
and the Lake
Titicaca. Canada, Canada, Malaga, Malaga, Canada, Canada, Malaga, Malaga,
The big Mississippi,
And the
town,
and the
Honolulu,
and the
and the Lake
and the big Mississippi, and the town on the
Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi.
Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi.
Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi.
Trinidad,
Brindisi, Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi. Canada, Malaga, Rimini, Brindisi. Canada, Malaga, Rimini.
Trinidad. So, boys and girls, the first thing I want to tell you, is in here we mentioned a volcano called the Popocatépetl. It just erupted. So it was recently in the news. Second thing I want to tell you is that this is the hardest thing we do. Because even though we don't have melodic notes to sing, all the notes of "Nay, go sing like this," we have all the rhythmic notes that we have to make sure we are counting like crazy, so that we're all in the same tempo or speed, and also that we all land in Trinidad at the same time. The other thing that we have to look for in this piece is something called dynamic markings. Dynamic markings are there because sometimes, even though you think your part is more important than anybody else's, it really isn't. So those things tell you when to just go at a normal tone, when to go loud, or when to go slow, so that other parts can be heard. So this is really one of the harder pieces we do. So now that we've talked about places all over the world, we're going to take you on a little trip. We're going to take you on a trip across the Atlantic Ocean, then we're going south, down to Africa, to the southern part of Africa, to a place where they speak a language called Hossa. And they click when they talk, which we don't do. So, this piece we're not clicking. But this is a true hunting song. It's an African hunting song. And what's happening is that the men have been gone for a very long time on a hunting trip.
What?
Bye.
What?
You guys have never hunting. Bye. Who doesn't like to hunt, right? So the men go hunting, and there's a village. And the village is getting ready to have a big party because the men and the boys are coming back from their hunting expedition. And everybody's really excited. So we need you as our village. And we're going to teach you a song in the language. It's very, very simple. The words are Soma Waza, Manyowe. So put it all together. Soma Waza Manyowe. Those are the only words you need to say. Melissa and I are going to...
I have an idea.
Okay.
And so we ask you to clap in this,
Oh, yeah.
but there's such good clicking in here, people could click instead.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so
But at the
listen
time,
to
at the
Melissa
right
and I sing it for you first, and then we'll have you repeat it. Someone was on your way, your way. Okay, quick. Someone was on your way, your way. Someone was on your way, your way. That's all there is to it. So let's give it a try. Are you ready? Okay, ready? Someone was on your way, your way. Someone was on your way, your way. Okay, I have a little bit of a problem. There's two of us, and there's
226.
226? Oh my goodness, all I could hear was Melissa and I. So we need you guys to be nice and loud so that the men know you're excited to have them come home. Let's try that one time again. Ready? Someone was on your way, your way. 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 Someone was on your
So now, we've been all over time, we've been all over the world. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring it home for this next song and sing for you our state song called These Green Mountains. Sounds like some of you may recognize that. If you want to sing along with us, Claire has the melody. And a little known fact, we actually didn't have a state song for a long time. And somewhat recently, they decided in the state legislature to hold a contest where a lot of different people tried to write songs about Vermont that they thought really captured the beauty and just what made Vermont different. And so a lot of people wrote different songs, and they had this competition. And the winner was actually words written by a letter carrier and the music written by a friend of hers. So it's These Green Mountains. You sing along with us if you know. Claire has the melody. Follow her.
These green hills, these silver waters are my home. They belong to me and to all of our sons and daughters. May they be strong and forever free. know why? Exactly right. Vermont is French for Green Mountain. That's on the nose. Good job.
Doesn't that song make you feel really good to live in the state of Vermont? Yeah. Music is so good. Music can make you feel a certain way. Like if you've ever heard really angry music, you might feel really angry. If you hear really happy music, it might make you feel really happy. And that piece of music was written to make you feel really good to live in the state of Vermont. The next piece of music is written to make you feel good for a completely different reason. It's actually written about America's favorite pastime. And I'm not going to tell you the name of it, because I know when we start to sing it all together, all of us coming in, you're going to recognize it. And when you do, if you want to sing along with us, we encourage that. But I'll tell you a little bit about how we got this song, too. So, someone decides what notes each of us is going to sing and when we're going to sing those notes. And that person, in this case, is called the arranger. They didn't write the music, but they decided how we would sing the song. And the arranger puts into this version of the song a musical joke where we sing like a group of people who don't know what the right notes are, but we try to sing anyway. See if we can hear that point in music. And my compatriots here have brought their costumes, and I forgot mine. So that's your only hint, their costume.
That means get benched.
Bum, 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 bum.
Katie Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad, just to root for the hometown crew every Sue Blue. On a Saturday, her young beau called to see if she'd like to go to see a show, but Miss Kate said no. I'll tell you what you can do.
I want you to
Take me out to the ball game and take me out with the crowd, with the parties of peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I hear them back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame.
It's a shame.
For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the ball game. Katie Casey saw all the games, knew the players by their first names, told the umpire he was wrong all along, good and strong, when the score was just 2-2. Katie Casey just what to do, just to cheer the boys she knew. She made the gang sing this song. They all sang, take me out to the ball game, take me out with the crowd, buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame.
It's a shame.
For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
At the old
Ball game. So boys and girls, one thing that we noticed when you all walked into the room today is that every single one of you is different from every other person in this room. And you know what? That country and our lives, more than our world, the way it is. It's a beautiful thing. We're all different. There's just sometimes when some people decide that they don't like the fact that you're different from them or anybody they know. And they decide to make a big deal out of it. They might bully you. And that's just not okay at all. This song we're going to do next is a song that says, don't laugh at me, don't call me names, and don't get your pleasure from my pain.
Na 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 na. I'm a little boy with glasses, the one they call a geek.
A little girl who never smiles 'cause I've got braces on my teeth.
And I know how it feels to cry myself to sleep.
I'm the kid on every playground.
Always chosen last.
One kid with different colored skin trying to overcome the past.
You don't have to be my friend, but is it too much to ask? Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me.
I'm the kid who's getting bullied in school and on my phone,
And the online posts attack me.
even when I'm home.
How can I live with hate? I feel so all alone.
Don't laugh at me.
Don't call me names.
Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In our hearts we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm short, I'm tall, I'm deaf, I'm blind. Hey, aren't we all? Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me,
Don't laugh at me.
don't laugh at me.
So we think, before we sing our last song, we have time for some questions that may have been coming up in your brains. The questions start with who, what, when, where, why, and how. So if you have any questions for us, now is the time to ask. Yes. Why do we do a cappella? Why not?
Exactly.
We really love to sing, and we really love that music can tell stories, music can share feelings, it can share thoughts, and who better to tell stories to or share feelings and thoughts with than young people? So it also is important that you all know that singing, you know, you can play a guitar in a band, you can be a drummer, there are lots of different things you can do in music, but singing is something you can do anywhere you go, and it's something that everyone in every culture has some experience with. So
Yeah,
that's
you
why
don't
we
ever
like
have
to
to
do it.
worry about an instrument. It's always with you.
Sir, yes. It's called a pitch pipe, and you notice that we don't have a keyboard to give us our pitches, so all around that little round disc is every pitch. Yeah. So Claire will blow one note, and from that we build our chord because we are familiar enough with the music that we can do that. Yes.
Up here on the top. How did we start this group? Well, that's a great question. How did we start this group? So I'm not going to tell you how long ago because I am the only original member left of this group, and I've been doing this for a very long time. Acapella has been going on for a while, and how we did it was Robert DeCormier, who was the conductor of the Vermont Symphony Orchestra chorus, he went to the symphony and he said, "Hey, you have all kinds of instrumental groups going out to these schools and showing kids about the violins or the drums or whatever." They have a petting zoo, which is an instrumental petting zoo, so they have all the orchestra, instruments in the orchestra that go. He said, "I think it's high time that we have a vocal group because it's all part of it." And they said, "Okay." So he asked 3 other people and myself if we wanted to do this group, this quartet, and go sing for children all around our state. And I'll tell you that I have been, since we started, and now these folks have joined along, to almost every single corner of this state that I can even imagine. We put pins on the map of Vermont, and you could barely see Vermont. It was all pins. So we've been to well over 200 schools. I've done well over 300 performances, and that's how we did it. We just started.
And we love to sing together, and we've met
Yeah.
each other through other groups, so that's how
Yeah.
we got together.
Yeah.
We have time for one more.
One more question.
Our last question.
Oh, I see it. It's right here. Can you ask your question?
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Liked our song.
Does
Did you
somebody
want to
have
ask
a
your question?
question?
Oh,
How do you know if it's mine?
how do we know the
question is, how do
songs?
we know all of
the
these
songs?
songs? Yeah. So there's a bunch of different answers to that, but one of them is as we listen to music, we remember the things that we like. And how many people noticed that in this particular show, we didn't do any songs that really sounded similar to each other. They were really quite different, right? So we find music that comes from all around the world in all kinds of different languages, and there's an agreement. In your music class, you have probably seen sheet music, music that's written down on paper. And music from most of the traditions in the world can be written down that way so that any musician that has learned to read that language is able to take that piece of paper and turn it into sound. So that's one of the ways that we get to actually learn and know all of this music, is that musicians worldwide have agreed that there's a specific language you need to learn in order to make someone else's idea into sound without them ever needing to sing.
It's like reading words on the page, except we read notes on the page. Well, words too. Notes as well. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to
Sure. The last song that we are going to sing is did you want to say? Yeah.
One more thing. Sorry. If you have, sorry, I just thought of this. If you have other questions
Oh, yes.
and you really want to answer them, or them answered, don't be afraid to come up to us when we're done our last song. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions. As long as your teacher says it's okay, you can come up to us and ask us whatever you'd like, and we would love to answer them. And again, we would like to thank today the Upper Valley Friends of the Vermont Symphony Orchestra for allowing us to be here today, along with your teachers and your school for allowing us to come into the building. And last but not least, we performers would like to give you, boys and girls, a great big round of applause, because you have been really a fantastic audience. It's so important for live performers to have an audience who's quiet, they sit still, there's no fidgeting, because it's when that all happens, it's distracting for us, and we can't do as good of a job as we'd like to. But today, you boys and girls, give yourselves a humongous round of applause.
Our last piece is in the African American tradition. It's a spiritual song, and it's African American History, Black History Month this month, and sadly, there's still need for people to march to get their causes out there in the world. And when people march together, they often sing together, and that's another important aspect of music. This piece is called Hold On.
Everybody hold on.
Hold on.
I said hold on.
Hold on.
Keep your hand on that plow.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Sing for peace, sing it loud and clear.
Sing it so the whole wide world can hear.
Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on.
Shout for peace.
Shout.
Stand your ground.
Don't let anybody turn you around. Keep your hand on that plow.
Hold on.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Hold on.
Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on.
Thank you so very much. And I'm really proud of the active listening skills. And I think this has been the best 45 minutes. We probably had it all year. Let's give